So the question we want to answer today is if war is inevitable. We will explore World War II as well as the Vietnam War to find if war is about to happen. Within the history of the human race, it is easy to see that we are a bloodthirsty and aggressive species. It seems as if warfare and conflict is in our blood and is just a natural part of life. Many have concluded that war is within our own evolutionary psychology. One philosopher referred to warfare as humanity's hereditary curse. The question is this true? Is war bound to happen? Is war inevitable? The attacks on Pearl Harbor were known to be the breaking point that brought America into World War II. This event motivated the citizens of the United States to finally get involved with the war. But why didn't this happen sooner? Why did the United States wait until December of 1941 to enter the war that had been going on for nearly 3 years? This was a time in which the United States was in a period of isolationism and wished to stay away from the conflict. But tensions were running high between Japan and the United States long before December 7, 1941. Japan was fighting what was almost a decade-long war with the Chinese in Manchuria. After the bombing of the USS Panay on the Yangtze River in December 1937, which Japan had claimed was an accident, the US and their allies began sending assistance to China. Japanese continued their aggression with the occupation of French Indochina, and the United States began to take preventative measures. In 1941, the United States ceased oil shipments to Japan. The US and Japan began negotiations to end sanctions and make peace, but their efforts were unsuccessful. Why does this matter? These unsuccessful peace talks are what brought the United States into the war. The interests of both countries were different, and they could not come to an agreement. This proves the inevitability of war. Although countries may not desire conflict with one another, it still may occur. When the interests of two countries are opposite of one another, there's no way of getting around it. The only solution is war. This is the way to unconditionally resolve a conflict. In modern times, many fight for their loyalty for their country, as well as the well-being of their people. During Vietnam, many soldiers lost their comrades in battle, and this aggravated them. When it came time to fighting the enemy, many found joy and power in killing. One soldier, platoon officer Karl Marlantes, stated that choosing sides is the fundamental first choice that a warrior makes. The second is willing to use violence to protect someone against intended or implied violence. This quote perfectly sums up the intervention of the United States in Vietnam. The reason the United States entered the war was to prevent the spread of communism under what they called the domino theory. The domino theory theorized that if the first domino toppled or became communist-controlled, this would then lead to the fall of the other dominoes, neighboring countries. The task of the United States was to prevent the fall of the first domino. This relates to the quote because the United States was trying to protect itself, as well as its allies, from implied violence. The people theorized that if the North Vietnamese were to stay communist, their ideologies would spread across East Asia and cause absolute chaos. President Eisenhower theorized, quote, "When we come to the possible sequence of events, the loss of Indochina, of Burma, of Thailand, of the peninsula, and Indonesia following, now you may begin to talk about areas that not only multiply the disadvantages that you would suffer through the loss of materials, sources of materials, but now you are talking really about millions and millions and millions of people." It was because of this idea of preventing potential chaos that prompted the United States to enter this war. If it were not for the US theorizing and looking ahead into the future, this war very well could have been prevented. But what if they didn't go to war, and the Vietnamese spread communism throughout Southeast Asia, and everything was as bad as they theorized? Then what? People are bound to be skeptical and not trust others. There likely may have been some wars in the past that could have been prevented. One way or another, a disagreement could have been resolved. But claiming that all wars could have been prevented is false. We are only human. Disagreement is bound to happen, and so is conflict. We no longer live in a world of harmony. Aggression is an innate trait in human beings. We are no longer capable of harmony. In a world of greed and individuality, there is no way of achieving ultimate peace.